Check this out. I watched the Floyd Mayweather interview on the Pivot, and he dropped some gems along with his usual sayings. And the thing is this: there's a landscape of hell of a fighters, but they haven't made smart investments, which is why the majority of the masses is not invested. Guys are out here fake retiring, and nobody cares. Guys are having mega bouts, and nobody cares. Guys aren't promoted out to the mainstream. And that's because they are boxers. Jack Johnson, Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya. These guys were box office. But it was one who took the ingredients of all of these fighters and mixed them up into one. And that is Floyd Mayweather Jr. Once upon a time, Floyd was a hell of a fighter who had the skills in the ring, but would be called boring by critics and not given much of an opportunity from his promoter at the time, who was Bob Arum, to be a household name. Floyd had to forge his own path, and he took risk outside of the ring, doing things that most fighters wouldn't, like going on Dancing with the Stars and having celebrity wrestling matches for the WWE. For some of y'all who remember, Floyd was even on this reality show with Chili back on VH1. I believe it was called What Chili Wants. And who can forget the show that took Floyd's career to the next level? That being 24/7. And through these things, we learned more about Floyd, his family, personal life, beliefs, motivations, his personality. This is what led people to be invested into seeing him fight in the ring. And whenever a Floyd Mayweather fight happened, it was treated as a spectacle. Floyd had 2 fake retirements, and people actually cared, both positive and negative, that he left the sport of boxing. Now that the man is actually retired, people can't help but to put him in these random ass fantasy matches. Oh, Canelo would beat him now. Oh, could Floyd beat Terrence Crawford? Oh, he's not seeing Triple G. Oh, Thomas Hearns would knock him out. Willie Pep would give him a run for his money. Who cares? These fights are never happening. But it does shows that whether positive or negative, that the people at large still care about Floyd. And they just can't stop using his name. For as great as Manny Pacquiao is, we gotta be honest. He only became a global icon because he used Floyd's name to build his brand, being casted as the supposed good guy who is going to save boxing and free it from the shackles of the evil Mayweather, right? And we saw how that went down. It still has an effect on Pacquiao to this day because he's still calling out Floyd for another fight at the age of 45. Like, ain't this man supposed to be a senator? I digress. Floyd captured not only the boxing world's attention, but the attention of the world. How did he do it? He's a master of his craft in the ring. Charismatic to the point of drawing out emotions. The ability to do interviews and sell himself in a way that will appeal to all demographics in one shape or form. Being a standout amongst everybody. The word aura is one of those words that's the flavor of the month for everybody. You know, people discover these words and they just overuse and abuse them. Floyd has that aura. Whenever he appears on the scene, he's not just another guy, he's the guy. When I look at today's boxing landscape, I don't see a face of boxing. Most would say Canelo, but I would disagree. Canelo got the most pay-per-view buys fighting, you guessed it, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And since then, only done 3 pay-per-views that hit $1 million plus in buys and haven't hit that number since 2018. Remember, Canelo also got popped for a banned substance, and when you add that on top of him not really having a personality to galvanize a mainstream audience towards him that could grow the sport, it's hard to call him the face of boxing. Not to mention that Canelo actually shared the ring with Floyd. And not only did he lose, but he got schooled. Floyd was 36, past his peak and prime, going up against a Canelo who was 23 in his physical prime, a unified champion at 154, and got schooled by the older and naturally smaller man. And Canelo, he gets a bad rap for not fighting these guys like David Benavidez, which, by the way, if he did fight David Benavidez, that fight will do a milli buys. Other guys like Jaime Munguia, David Morrell, he catch a bad rap for fighting guys like this, right? But I like what Canelo said about guys waiting around to fight him. And that is that they need to fight each other. Which brings me to my next point is a lot of these fighters are entitled. These guys think because they promotional company hyped them up to be the next big thing that they could fight a cash cow by going through the path of least resistance. You can't fight Milos the Uber driver and think you about to get a pay-per-view main event $20+ million payday. That's not how this works. These guys are not fighting each other to prove who's the best of the rest and giving the money man no choice but to fight them. If I'm a David Benavidez, my next fight will be against a David Morrell or a Jaime Munguia. And if you truly believe in your skills as you say you do, you should beat them, building your name value in the process and forcing the Canelo to acknowledge you. And people keep saying that the PBC is playing games with Benavidez. But remember, David Benavidez is a 2-time WBC champion. And he lost it twice. He lost it one time on the scales, and he lost another time by failing a drug test. Which if he had kept that belt, that specific belt, he would have been had a Canelo fight. So because of the choices that he made, he has to go through the path of most resistance. Another thing that these fighters must do is stop looking at these promoters to turn them into stars. This is not the 80s or the 90s. These are not those times anymore. And just as Muhammad Ali and the Nation of Islam diminished the power of the mafia in boxing, Floyd Mayweather diminished the power of the promoter and promotional company in boxing. Bob Arum did not turn Floyd into the biggest draw in the history of combat sports. He did that himself. Now, in the beginning, it may be cool to sign with these companies to launch off your career and you get a nice little buzz, but as you elevate and want big money paydays and these mega fights, you better off doing that yourself. I mean, look at Terrence Crawford. He had to leave Top Rank to get that Errol Spence Jr. fight. A legacy-changing fight that he could have been had if he decided to lead a plantation known as Top Rank a lot sooner. Now, at 36 years old, Terrence Crawford is desperately looking for these mega fights that are not there. Gervonta Davis is another dude that people allege is the face of boxing, but he's more on that Tyson branch of the equation, as to where they both have one-punch KO power and an element of unpredictability. What Gervonta lacks that Tyson had is charisma. Tyson had quotables for days. Dudes out here still quoting Tyson in their interviews. And also, Tank needs to step up his level of competition. I don't mind this Frank Martin fight. It's a good tune-up bout, but he need to start fighting the best at 135 and 140 before I can even say he's the face of boxing. With this topic alone, it's so much I could get into. I might make a series out of it, but when I look at boxing right now, there's nobody who can claim the top spot and say they are the guy of this sport. I mean, Floyd set such a standard that is going to be difficult to match or even top. But it's more than just being great in the ring. You got to be great out of the ring. You have to be an ambassador of the sport. I don't think people understand what it means when a fighter say that they're the face of boxing. That means you're pushing the sport forward. None of these guys are doing it right now. And I'm not saying that they can't. I mean, you never know who could rise up to the occasion and do it. Because when you're truly great, that's what you do. But do I currently see that? No, not at all. But we'll see how things transpire over time. Peace.